When I came to my senses, I realized I was the hated, long-lost son in a gay romance novel. My entire purpose was to constantly stir up trouble, frame the other son, and get despised by all my friends and family. Are you kidding me? My body was a wreck. I'd take 1 step and cough, 3 steps and have a coughing fit. I was always catching colds, running fevers, and getting random stomachaches and headaches. I barely had the energy to move, let alone scheme against someone. From then on, I made up my mind. I'd just lay low, let them talk, and coast until the end. All I wanted was to live out the rest of my days in peace. But later, the family who once despised me was begging me to come home. And that secret tycoon, he knelt before me like it was second nature, his palm warming my ice-cold ankle. Baby, he pleaded, don't get cold. The villainous side character in the book, which was me, was the Clark family's son who'd been missing for over 20 years. And Caleb, the boy who was accidentally swapped with me at birth, was the novel's main character, the charming, beloved golden boy. When I was 22, the Clarks found me and brought me home. After a lifetime of hardship, I thought I'd finally found a warm home and a family to love me. But the truth was, my mom, my dad, my brother, and even Peter, the heir to the family-friendly Hale Corporation, they all preferred Caleb. He always came first. Whenever Caleb and I had a fight, they would side with him without hesitation, blaming me without even hearing my side of the story. The result was always the same. I'd get disgusted looks from my family and friends, and a sly little smile from Caleb. Caleb was the treasure they had pampered for over 20 years. Their bond was deep. As for me, I was weathered by a rough life. My health had been poor since I was a child, making me prone to sickness. My personality was timid and cautious. I tried so hard to please everyone, but I always ended up making a fool of myself. In comparison, Caleb's cheerful, outgoing, and graceful demeanor, that natural air of a privileged young master, was much more appealing to the family. After seeing their blatant favoritism time and time again, I grew resentful. My dislike for Caleb became obvious, and our arguments escalated. This was exactly what Caleb wanted. With a little bit of playing the victim and a few dirty tricks, our fights turned into me maliciously framing him in my family's eyes. Eventually, out of sight, out of mind, the Clarks married me off to Justin Hale, the good-for-nothing, rebellious third son of the Hale family, without even asking me. In the end, my jealousy drove me insane. I frantically tried to harm Caleb, even breaking the law, and ultimately got what I deserved. Stabbed to death in a dark alley. The current scene was just a few days after my wedding. At a party, both Caleb and I had fallen into the swimming pool. Caleb just swallowed a little water and was fine, but my body couldn't handle it. The shock sent me into a recurring fever, and I'd been stuck in the hospital for days. After sorting through the plot in my head, I slowly opened my eyes. A plain white ceiling came into view. A wave of exhaustion and discomfort washed over me. I let out a deep sigh. I was in this state, barely able to move. How could I possibly have the energy to fight with Caleb for attention? Someone else was in the room. I shifted slightly, and the person turned their head at the sound. "You're awake?" Mark's voice was laced with ice as he let out a cold, cryptic sneer. He glanced at his phone and walked out of the room. I watched him go, then slowly sat up. 20 minutes later, the hospital room was full. My father, Mr. Clark my mother, Mrs. Clark my brother, Mark Caleb and his childhood friend, Peter and my husband, Justin Hale, who I'd barely seen since we got married. The whole crew was here. "Evan, when are you going to admit you were wrong?" Mark stepped forward, looking down at me. "Did you really think we were all idiots? Using such a pathetic trick to hurt Caleb?" I looked up at him, about to speak, but my throat was so hoarse I could barely make a sound. I glanced to the side. Not even a glass of water. After a few quiet coughs, I looked at Mark, who was closest to me, and rasped, "Brother, I need some water." The anger in Mark's eyes faltered. He stared for a few seconds before turning to get water, his movements quick and rough, clearly annoyed. He shoved the glass into my hand with a loud tsk, his disgust obvious. I ignored him and took small sips from the cup. The warm water soothed my throat, making it feel a little better. After finishing the water, I saw everyone was still standing around. "Have a seat," I offered kindly. Why were they all standing around my bed? Felt like I was a monkey in a cage. Peter lost his patience. "Evan, how can you act like nothing happened after you pushed Caleb into the pool to hurt him?" "What do you mean, nothing happened?" I found a comfortable position to lean back in and lazily glanced at him. "Can't you see I can barely even move in this bed? You brought this on yourself." His tone didn't change. "No matter how you try to frame Caleb, it won't work. A vicious person like you will never take his place in our hearts." I'm so done, I thought. Framing him. The pool was tiny, not even 6 feet deep. He's a grown man who knows how to swim. Did they really think he was going to drown? I'd have better luck framing him by playing house. My fever hadn't fully broken yet. My head was spinning, and my whole body felt weak and miserable. I just wanted to get rid of these people, so I made up a random excuse. I wasn't trying to hurt him. I was just jealous that he could swim and I wanted him to teach me. We fell in by accident. Mark scoffed. What a pathetic lie. Tears welled up in Mrs. Clark's eyes, as if she was utterly disappointed in me. "Evan, I've told you so many times, I want you and Caleb to get along. Your father and I see you both as our own children." The subtext was clear. She thought I did it. Caleb put his arm around her. "Mom, don't be sad. I'm sure my brother won't do this kind of thing again. Caleb, you're just too soft-hearted. That's what you thought last time, and look what happened. If we let him keep this up, who knows what horrible things he'll do next." The second Caleb opened his mouth, the others couldn't hold back, jumping in to put me down and comfort him. Their voices buzzed around my head like flies, giving me a headache. I frowned in discomfort. "Then why don't you just call the police? Make sure you have proof, though. Your word isn't enough. Just leave me alone." So loud. The noisy chatter finally stopped. Mr. Clark pointed at me. You're completely unrepentant. Evan, apologize to Caleb right now. Don't think we won't actually do something to you." "Oh great, here we go again. How unfair." I was being completely serious with my suggestion. Just then, the door clicked open. It was Justin, who had stepped out for some air or something. An idea sparked in my mind. "You'll do." My gaze lingered on his handsome, bold face for a second. Then I called out softly, "Honey." When he looked over, I gave him a little wink. "I want to go home." The room fell silent once again. A playful glint flickered in Justin's dark eyes, but underneath it was a cool indifference. He casually glanced around the room, then curled his lips into a smile. "All right." After finishing the discharge papers and packing my things, I finally escaped the Clark family and Peter's constant nagging and got into Justin's car to go home. After we got married, we moved into a villa together. We barely interacted and had no feelings for each other. We were like strangers, each living our own lives. Before, I was still delusional enough to think the Clarks would accept me, so I was always running over to their house. I rarely ever saw Justin. But now, no way I was going to be that stupid again, just to get the cold shoulder. If they love Caleb so much and don't want to see me, I'll grant them their wish. I'd like to live a few more years. Sticking by Justin's side and just coasting seemed like a pretty good plan. He had money after all. The book mentioned that on the surface, Justin was the unfavored third son of the Hale family, a wild, arrogant playboy who did nothing but waste money. But in reality, he had secretly used his brilliant business mind to build his own commercial empire. He was unimaginably wealthy and powerful, the kind of person the Hale and Clark families would beg to work with. He was a classic undercover billionaire. Now that I was married to him, as long as I behaved and didn't cause trouble, I could probably live a comfortable life by his side for a few more years. In the back seat of the car, Justin and I sat on opposite sides, an empty seat between us. I stared boredly at the passing scenery, pulling my coat tighter. Still felt cold. I turned to him and said, "Cold." Without looking at me, Justin gestured to the driver. The heat. Soon the car warmed up a bit. My body started to relax, and a wave of sleepiness washed over me. "I'm tired," I said to Justin. The man raised an eyebrow and turned to look at me. "What, you want me to set up a bed for you?" "No need," I said. licking my dry lips, a little embarrassed. "Can I just borrow your shoulder?" He was silent. He didn't say yes, but he didn't say no. So I tentatively scooted closer. He didn't move away or show any sign of resistance. "Thanks." I leaned my head on his shoulder and felt his body tense up for a second. Maybe it was just my imagination, but it felt warmer next to Justin. I closed my eyes contentedly. When I woke up again, I was in a bed. I was at my and Justin's home. We slept in separate rooms after getting married. He had the master, I had the guest room next door, though they were about the same size and mine had everything I needed. I was hungry, so I threw off the covers and went downstairs to eat. It was dinner time, and surprisingly, Justin was there, resting his chin on his hand at the dining table, looking bored. As I reached the last step, my body swayed uncontrollably. I grabbed the railing to steady myself before shuffling over to the table. I sat down and saw Justin looking me over. I glanced back at him. "Good evening." His eyes flickered, and he looked away, mumbling a soft "What's going on with your health?" he asked, his voice lazy as if it were just a passing thought. "The doctor cornered me today and spent an hour listing off precautions." My throat was a little dry, so I picked up my glass and took a sip of water. I fell into some water when I was a kid. My health has been bad ever since. I get sick easily. "Oh," he said with a half smile. "So I married a delicate little princess?" The last dish was brought to the table. Maybe it was because I was sick, but even though I was hungry, I had no appetite. I put half a scoop of rice in a small bowl and ate in tiny bites, occasionally picking at some vegetables. Just as I reached my chopsticks toward one of the dishes, "Hold on," Justin said, pulling out his phone. "Let me check my notes." A few seconds later, he moved the dish away from me. "You can't eat this one." "Fine." The next few days were pretty comfortable. I just stayed at home, eating and sleeping. Justin didn't seem very busy lately. He was sometimes home during the day and always ate with me. But after dinner, he'd say, "You eat less than Mittens." I paused. "Who's Mittens?" "A friend's cat." He kept going, getting more and more ridiculous. "If you were the only one eating here, a week could go by and the rice bin would still look full." It wasn't that exaggerated. I let out a little huff through my nose and ignored him. One day, I was curled up on the living room sofa, completely absorbed in a book. Justin was sitting at a nearby table, typing on his laptop. I couldn't tell if he was playing a game or working. I felt a little thirsty and stood up to get a glass of water, but maybe I'd been reading for too long. The moment I stood up, my vision went black. I lost control of my body and pitched forward. With a loud thud, I hit the floor hard. My mind went blank from the shock and the pain. "Evan." A few seconds later, I felt strong arms lift me into a firm, warm chest. The dizziness wouldn't go away. I scrunched up my face in discomfort as the man held me, my consciousness fading in and out. "Evan." "Evan?" Justin placed a hand on my forehead, calling my name over and over. After a long moment, I finally came to and responded dazedly. "Huh?" I opened my eyes, and through my blurry vision, I saw Justin's brow furrowed. His thin lips pressed into a tight line. 20 minutes later, the family Dr. Justin had called arrived. He examined me. The reason for my sudden collapse was simple: low blood sugar. Luckily, I hadn't hit my head on the corner of the coffee table when I fell, so I wasn't seriously hurt, but there was a large, dark bruise on my right shoulder. It looked terrifying against my pale skin. The doctor gave me a full checkup. I had a whole list of minor issues, but the gist was my constitution was extremely weak. I needed to take very good care of myself, or it could turn into something serious. I was sprawled lazily on the sofa, watching the doctor hand a tube of ointment to Justin and explain how often to apply it and what to watch out for. It felt like he and the doctor talked forever. I didn't catch anything they said after a while as sleepiness took over and I dozed off again. In a daze, I felt someone crouch in front of me and click their tongue. "Princess, don't sleep here." I opened my eyes and saw the man frowning, clearly disapproving. "Get up, time for your medicine. You can go upstairs to sleep after." Oh. I slowly sat up and was about to put on my shoes when he scooped me up, one arm under my knees and the other around my back. He was careful to avoid the bruise on my shoulder. The sudden movement startled me, and I couldn't help but let out a cry. "Justin, what?" His expression didn't change. "You faint after taking 2 steps and you think you can make it upstairs? Your face is so pale I couldn't get that white with 10 layers of foundation." Whatever. I couldn't win against him. I thought for a moment, then wrapped my arms around his neck, happily accepting his service. We were married, after all. His steps faltered for a second, then he continued steadily up the stairs. He took me to my room. The bruise was on my shoulder, so I couldn't apply the ointment myself. Justin had to do it for me. His palm was warm, and his movements were gentle. But when his big hand touched the wound, I still couldn't help but flinch. "Just bear with it," he said, looking up at me. Under the lamplight, his expression was almost tender. Justin took me to see a renowned local specialist in traditional medicine. He got me herbal remedies and listened to the old doctor list off countless ways to improve my health. He also hired a nutritionist to plan my 3 daily meals, adjusting my diet to be healthy and beneficial while avoiding foods I couldn't have. I thought it was all a bit much. "You really don't have to," I tried to persuade him. He gave me a cryptic look and rejected my plea. "If something happens to you, everyone will start saying I'm a jinx. How am I supposed to explain that?" I definitely didn't see that reason coming. He remembered when to apply my medicine better than I did. When it was time, he'd just silently walk over with the ointment. After a while, the moment he approached, I'd automatically lie down on the bed, pull down my shirt, and expose my shoulder. He's been keeping a close eye on me lately. He watches me drink every last drop of my brewed herbal medicine. I can't even sneak away to skip it once. If I read for too long during the day, he'll stand up, take the book from my hands, and remind me, "Don't read for too long. Get up and walk around." When he's not around, he has the housekeeper, Mrs. Davison, watch me. Even though he can be sharp-tongued sometimes, he's really been taking care of me lately. I felt a little bad about it. I buried my face in my pillow and mumbled, "Thank you. This must be a lot of work." Justin was silent for a long time, his hands frozen in place. I glanced over at him, puzzled, and caught a suspicious blush on the tip of his ear. "We're married, don't say things like that," he said, his tone a bit rougher. "What do you think you're calling me honey for?" Dark clouds gathered in the sky, blanketing the city as distant thunder rumbled. The weather was about to turn. Even though I was inside the villa and couldn't feel the temperature change, the gloomy gray outside cast a shadow over my heart, making me uneasy. That night, lying in bed, I listened to the pounding rain and crashing thunder outside, my hands instinctively tightening on the covers. The room was its usual temperature, and it was warm under the blankets. But I felt a chill spreading through my entire body, and I couldn't stop shivering. I don't like rainy days. It's less about dislike and more about fear. It awakens a deep, hidden memory. On a similar stormy night, amidst the deafening thunder and rain, a close relative grabbed me by the collar. No matter how much I cried and begged, his expression never softened. "You little curse. I should have killed you long ago." With those words, he threw me into the deep, dark ocean. Seawater rushed into my nose and mouth, and the feeling of suffocation wrapped around me. The cold and darkness from that time have never left me. If a kind fisherman hadn't found and saved me, I would have been buried in that dark sea. I pulled the covers over my head and closed my eyes, trying to ignore the storm outside. But the chill from that memory was impossible to ignore. It felt like it had become a physical entity, haunting me relentlessly. Unable to bear it any longer, I got out of bed, hugged my pillow, and went to knock on Justin's door next door. He opened it a moment later. He was wearing a black tank top and knee-length shorts, his arms and chest revealing sleek, wild-looking muscles. He had a great body. He looked surprised to see me, but quickly reacted. "It's cold out here. Why are you wearing so little?" Justin pulled me into his room, closed the door, and shut out the chilly air from the hallway. I bit my lip, clutching the pillow tighter.
"Honey, I'm scared."
Based on past experience, if I called him that, he probably wouldn't refuse whatever I asked. And tonight, I really didn't want to sleep alone. His expression froze for a second, then returned to normal. It's honey when you need something, and Justin when you don't. Huh? Despite his words, he took my wrist without hesitation and led me further into the room. You can sleep here tonight. He frowned. Why are your hands so cold? I get cold easily, and I have a naturally low body temperature. My hands and feet are often freezing and never seem to warm up. It's an old problem, nothing new. He didn't seem annoyed that I didn't answer. He motioned for me to get into bed. I put my pillow down and slipped under the covers. He must have been about to sleep, because the bed was still warm. A moment later, he lifted the covers and got in beside me. The bed was huge and soft, more than enough for two grown men. Maybe it was my imagination, but Justin's body seemed a little stiff, and he wouldn't look at me. With the familiar presence of another person beside me, I slowly relaxed and my body warmed up, but something still felt off. So I scooted closer to him. Justin, who had been lying flat on his back, suddenly turned onto his side to face me. He reached out an arm and pulled me into his embrace. My cheek rested against his chest, and a constant stream of warmth flowed into me. I wasn't wrong before. He really was warm, like a giant furnace. I let out a soft sigh and snuggled comfortably against him. Then, a deep voice, now a bit raspy, came from above my head. We're married. So if I were to do something to you, that would be legal, right? I froze and looked up at him. His expression was calm, just like usual. But the bright red tips of his ears and the glint in his eyes betrayed his inner turmoil. Oh, I let out a slow yawn. Yeah, it's legal. So what do you want to do? I'm not opposed. The large hand on my waist tightened. He lowered his head and kissed me. At first, it was just a light, exploratory touch of our lips. Then he slowly deepened it, becoming more and more fierce. Our lips and tongues intertwined, our breaths mingling. Finally, when I couldn't breathe anymore, I pushed against his chest, and he pulled back. For a first kiss to be that intense, I really couldn't handle it. I couldn't help but let out a few soft coughs. Can't even handle a single kiss, Justin murmured, pressing my head back against his chest. Look at you, so delicate. Wrapped in warmth, I lazily closed my eyes. Well, this is how I am. What are you going to do about it? He sighed. Go to sleep, princess. That was the soundest I had slept on a rainy night in years. For the next few days, the weather was bad, mostly stormy. So I shamelessly crashed in Justin's room, cuddling my all-natural furnace and sleeping soundly. I was comfortable, but sometimes I'd wake up in the middle of the night and see him lying there, stiff as a board, staring at the ceiling. Any guilt I felt, however, was quickly chased away by sleepiness. Once this rainy spell is over, I'll go back to my own room. The nutritionist Justin hired was really something. Every day, she made me different, delicious meals that whetted my appetite, never repeating a dish within a week. But sometimes I still craved heavier, more flavorful food. I'd watch Justin eat with relish and give him a pitiful look. So after that, his 3 meals a day became the same as mine. Justin was really good to me, but he could be strict in certain ways. I often felt like a student caught daydreaming in class by the teacher. I'm a total homebody, and my health has always kept me indoors. But Justin would sometimes get a sudden urge to take me out, claiming I'd go stir crazy if I didn't get out of the house. The first time he suggested it, I got my hopes up for a second. Are you taking me for hot pot? He gave me a look that screamed in your dreams and retorted, do I look like a hot pot to you? My disappointment must have been written all over my face, because his expression softened. He ruffled my hair and said, when you're better, I'll take you to eat whatever you want. Turned out we were just going for a walk. After some time with the new diet and herbal medicine, my body had improved a bit. The lingering effects from the pool incident were mostly gone. My face had a bit more color, and I didn't feel as weak as before. So it was time to get moving. Justin specifically chose a bright, sunny day to take me out. There was a wetland park near our house. It wasn't crowded, and the scenery was beautiful. It had been so long since I'd breathed fresh air. I took a deep, satisfying breath. But after just a few steps, Justin suddenly stopped. He tucked one of my hands into my coat pocket, then took my other hand in his. Keep your hand warm, he explained.
Ok, fine.
It was comfortable being held by him anyway. We walked and stopped, stopped and walked. While we were resting on a bench, Justin suddenly leaned in and whispered in my ear, "How about a kiss?" Ever since that first night, it was like he'd unlocked some kind of kissing achievement, and it could be triggered at any time. The last time we kissed was yesterday, I think. With that thought, I leaned over and gave him a quick peck on the corner of his lips. As I was about to pull away, he pursued me, holding the back of my head to deepen the kiss. He really loved deep kisses. After the first time, he learned I couldn't handle it for too long, so he started controlling the duration, testing my limits little by little. But every time, he still left me with flushed cheeks and a weak body. He even said I'd get used to it with practice. So shameless. But I kind of liked it. After that first time, I stopped resisting going out. Justin started taking me out more often, and to more places. Movie theaters, shopping streets, museums, felt more and more like we were dating. So I asked him, "Are we dating now?" Justin gently pinched my cheek, his handsome face completely serious. Married life. We're in the honeymoon phase. The weather had gotten better recently, clear skies, no more rain or thunder. I suggested I go back to sleeping in my own room at night. Justin didn't agree. He stared at me pitifully for a long moment. "It's only been a little while, and you're already kicking me to the curb?" Fine. I was comfortable sleeping with him anyway. It just seemed like he was the one having a hard time. The days passed by, and every one of them was comfortable and easy. I had long forgotten about the Clark family. So when I got a call from Mark, I was completely baffled for a moment. "Who is this? It's been this long and you haven't even called home." The cold words came through the phone. "Evan, is this how we raised you?" I instinctively frowned and pulled the phone away to check the caller ID, only then realizing it was Mark. I asked, bewildered, "Did you ever raise me to do anything? Wasn't it just constant criticism and blame?" "You." He was speechless for a moment, then said impatiently, "The family dinner with the Hales is on Saturday. Be there on time, and don't even think about pulling any stunts." He hung up before I could reply. What a psycho. It's like he has anger issues. Justin got the message too and asked if I wanted to go. I thought about it. I might as well. Otherwise, the Clarks would probably start harassing me with calls every other day. Saturday night. 2 generations of the Clark and Hale families gathered together. As we took our seats, Caleb greeted me with a smile. "Evan, long time no see. I'm so happy to finally see you today." I glanced at him and said nothing. Mark looked like he was about to explode, but in front of the Hales, he had to hold it in. He just shot me a warning look. Justin blocked his line of sight. His voice was sharp. "Big brother, why are you glaring at my husband?" The atmosphere froze for a second. No one seemed to expect Justin to be so direct. Someone tried to smooth things over with a laugh. "Let's all sit down. Let's eat first and talk later." The food arrived, a lavish spread. But with people I didn't want to see at the table, I had no appetite. I just took small bites of the food Justin put on my plate. He now knew exactly what I could and couldn't eat, and he took care of me with a natural, practiced ease. Once we were mostly done eating, they started chatting. Facing a table full of people, everyone but Justin, I had no desire to speak. They talked amongst themselves, and I tuned them out, occasionally leaning over to whisper something to Justin. Until the conversation turned to us. Evan and Justin seemed to be getting along so well. Caleb spoke up, a malicious glint in his eyes. "You were so unhappy when Mom and Dad first told you about the marriage." He poured 2 glasses of wine and walked over to me. He held one out. "Seeing you so happy makes me happy too. Evan, let me toast to you." I was about to refuse, but Justin spoke first. "He can't drink that." His voice was lazy, but held a hint of coldness. "My Evan had a rough life before. His health isn't good, and we're working on it. So don't you come here and mess with him." The smile on Caleb's face froze. How could I possibly hurt him? "Justin, did Evan say something to you to make you misunderstand?" "Who the hell is your brother? Get lost. I'm allergic to 2-faced snakes." Justin looked up, his words now a clear warning. Caleb, if you pull any more of your cheap tricks on my husband, you'll see what I do to you. And don't think I've forgotten about what happened before. The atmosphere instantly grew heavy. No one expected Justin to suddenly turn on Caleb. I didn't expect him to just tear down the facade like that either. How much did he know about what happened between me and Caleb before? A warmth spread through my chest. Under the table, I gently scratched the back of the hand Justin was holding. He squeezed it reassuringly. Is there some kind of misunderstanding? My mother said, looking at Caleb with pity in her eyes. Justin, honey, I watched Caleb grow up. He has a good heart, he would never bully Evan. It's just that Evan, he wasn't with us before, so he's been through a lot. He's not very affectionate, and he doesn't tell us what's on his mind. Her words were full of favoritism for Caleb and distrust for me. I looked at the face that resembled mine and felt a ripple of emotion, which quickly calmed. I retorted, I'm only affectionate with people who are good to me. As soon as I finished, Justin chimed in perfectly. That's right. Evan is very affectionate with me. A steady warmth flowed from his palm into mine, comforting me. This was probably the first time in my entire life that someone had stood up for me so firmly. Justin didn't let her off the hook either. You're so biased, Auntie. Anyone who didn't know better would think Caleb was your real son. With the truth laid bare, Mrs. Clark's face flushed with embarrassment. Justin's father, Mr. Hale, slammed his hand on the table. Justin, what is that tone? Justin didn't even spare his father a glance. Just kidding, Mark said, his expression displeased. The Clarks have always treated Caleb and Evan equally. There's no favoritism. It's just that sometimes Evan is immature and does ridiculous things. As his elders, it's our job to correct him. He was calling me out directly. I looked at Mark, this person who shared my blood, and he suddenly felt like a complete stranger. A wave of nausea washed over me. I couldn't stand to look at him for another second. A whole group of you and you can't see straight. No wonder you're so good at twisting the truth. Justin sneered. Go on, keep treasuring your pile of crap. And stop bossing my husband around. Take a look at yourselves and see if you're even qualified. The looks on their faces turned instantly ugly. I have to say, it was pretty satisfying to watch. But Justin was in for it. His dad's mouth was practically crooked with anger. You bastard! I don't care how you fool around outside. But who taught you to speak to your elders like that? You do nothing all day, you don't even have a real job. Evan is just suffering by being married to you. I could speak to that. Sir, I'm not suffering, I said, looking at Mr. Hale and clarifying seriously. Justin is wonderful to me. I'm very happy with him. Mr. Hale paused, then waved his hand dismissively. I know exactly what he's like. Don't believe him just because he sweet-talks you. I didn't like hearing that, and I instinctively frowned. I was about to say something else, but Justin squeezed my hand, signaling me to stop. Mr. Hale didn't notice our small gesture and continued his tirade. If it weren't for my money, he would have starved to death by now. Would he be sitting here comfortably? All he knows how to do is piss me off. When have I ever used your money? Justin remarked, you've got a lot of nerve. Mr. Hale roared, don't expect another cent from me. The gathering ended in a complete disaster. In the car, I thought about the looks on the Clarks' faces and still felt a sense of satisfaction. Justin's I don't give a damn attitude was something I should learn from, though I wasn't as quick with my words as he was. I knew a little about Justin's family situation. As the third son, he had a different mother than his two older brothers. After Mr. Hale's first wife died of illness, he married Justin's mother, Susan. Unlike the first wife, who came from a prominent family, Susan was from a normal background. After the initial novelty wore off, Mr. Hale lost patience with his unpresentable wife, growing cold and even resentful. That dislike extended to his third son, Justin. Susan never knew what she did wrong. After countless failed attempts to win him back, she died of sorrow. A young Justin lost his mother and was disliked by his father. I could only imagine how difficult his life at the Hale residence must have been. I had only known the basics before, but seeing it firsthand today, I truly understood how bad their relationship was. Honey, A deep, pleasant voice from above broke my train of thought. "You're not mad at me for talking to your aunt and uncle like that today, are you?" I was leaning against his chest with my eyes closed. I opened them and yawned. "Not at all. My husband is so cool. He loved it when I complimented him." His lips curved into a smile. Then he quickly suppressed it, feigning distress. "But what if I really do nothing and we run out of money? Will you resent me?" I wasn't sure if he was serious. The book said he was richer than a king, wealthier than the Hale and Clark families combined, with a net worth in the trillions. He shouldn't ever run out of money. But I thought for a moment and answered seriously, "I still have some shares in the Clark family's company. If things get really bad, I can transfer them to you. You can sell them, and that should hold us over for a while." Then I thought about my varied and ever-changing gourmet meals. I felt a bit guilty. Am I really expensive? Maybe we should stop with the nutritionist. With the few bites you eat every day? How much could that possibly cost? He tightened his arms around me, his eyes full of pity. Then his mind seemed to wander, and he cursed under his breath. "Damn the Clarks. They're really a piece of work." Okay, now I was sure Justin was just messing with me. I pouted. "See? I told you I'm easy to take care of. If I died someday, you'd never find anyone as easy to care for as me." I didn't expect him to suddenly get angry. "What are you talking about?" Justin, who had been holding me comfortably, suddenly sat me up next to him, let go, and moved 2 fists distance away. He said with a straight face, "You sit there and think about what you just said." I was a bit stunned, unsure of what I'd said to make him so mad. Since I couldn't figure it out, I just sat there stiffly, like a student being punished for misbehaving. I'd occasionally glance over at him, but Justin just stared straight ahead, not looking at me. Such a cold man. I felt hurt and upset, and decided I didn't want to talk to him either. The car fell silent. We remained in a standoff, neither of us speaking first, until I couldn't help but sneeze. Justin immediately turned his head, his expression tense. He grabbed my hand and held it in his palm to warm it up. He saw me looking at him, quickly schooled his features, and went back to staring ahead. I tried to pull my hand back, but he wouldn't let go, so I just left it there. Justin had really outdone himself. This time, his anger lasted an impressively long time. Usually, he'd only get stern with me for a moment when I was craving something I couldn't have or being disobedient, but he'd quickly soften up and coax me. But today, he managed to not speak to me for a long time. He just brought me my medicine with a cold face, supervised me drinking it, handed me a towel, and dried my hair with a cold face, warmed the bed for me with a cold face. When we went to sleep, he still held me, pulling me tight against his chest. We were both being stubborn, neither saying a word. Just as I was drifting off to sleep, I heard a mournful voice from above my head. "You little brat, little fool, little idiot, you heartless thing." I was almost asleep, completely exhausted, but his constant muttering in my ear was pure torture. I buried my head deeper, trying to escape the demonic chanting, but he kept going. I wrinkled my nose. "Please stop, master," he huffed. "So now I can't even say anything? Don't you forget what you said in the car today?" Seeing that he was about to launch into another long-winded lecture, I quickly looked up and covered his lips with a flurry of messy kisses. As I kissed him, I cooed, "I was wrong, honey." He finally fell silent, but the hand on my waist tightened. Just when I thought I could finally get some peace and quiet, I heard him let out a soft sigh. "Honey, Evan, baby, you have to live a long, long and peaceful life. I don't want anyone else. I just want to be with you forever." I froze. So that's what he was angry about. Our not-so-authentic Cold War officially ended after half a day. Probably because of what I'd casually said in the car. 2 days later, Justin took me to a psychological counseling clinic. Anxiety scales, depression scales, SCL-90s. I filled out every psychological evaluation imaginable and even had a session with a therapist. Only when the results came back completely normal did Justin finally relax. It was both funny and incredibly touching. I had never imagined that someone would care so much about every part of me, hold me so close to their heart, and willingly pamper me like this. It turned out that even my miserable life could have such a lucky encounter. I don't know if it was because my appetite had improved lately, but I felt like I'd gained some weight. My cheeks were fuller. When I asked Justin, he disagreed. Where? I hold you every night. I haven't felt anything. You still need to eat more. That night in bed, I wiggled around in his arms, persistently asking, feel again. Am I not fatter? He didn't answer, but let out a hiss through his teeth. I felt something and immediately stopped moving. He looked at me helplessly, a mournful look on his face. You love to move around, but I'm not allowed to touch. With that, he started to get up to take a cold shower. Seeing him take cold showers so often, I felt bad for him. So as he was getting up, I reached out and hooked my arm around his neck. Be gentle, I whispered. Should be fine. I had seen the things he'd sneakily stashed in the nightstand. I didn't think I was that fragile, that I couldn't even do that. Justin stared at me for a long time, his gaze so hot it was almost scary. Just as I was about to back down, he lowered his head and kissed me. The heat of his lips landed on my skin. He whispered, tell me if you're uncomfortable. I never would have expected it. We took every precaution. Justin was incredibly careful during the process, and everything seemed to go smoothly. But the next morning, I still came down with a low-grade fever. He frantically called the doctor over. Thankfully, it wasn't serious. The fever and my symptoms were much milder than when I'd gotten sick before. After the doctor left and he'd given me my medicine, Justin squeezed onto the bed with me, leaning against the headboard, one hand stroking my hair. He looked at me with a frown. Where did we go wrong? Who knows with this broken body of mine? He felt incredibly guilty and stayed by my side, not leaving for a second. I was fine with it. I didn't think it was a big deal. After all, last night was pretty satisfying. Yeah, I'd like to try again. Seeing how genuinely puzzled he was, I said, I think I was just too tired last night. I told you to stop several times, but you didn't. I thought you were just saying no but meaning yes. He nodded thoughtfully. I see. We can't go for too long. I'll control the time from now on. We'll have smaller, more frequent meals. I raised my hand and gave him a weak slap. Frequent your head. My palm hit his bare arm with a crisp sound. He immediately grabbed my hand, looking concerned. Did that hurt? He asked, blowing on it. Justin has been a little off lately. He's been going out more, seemingly busy with something. One day, as I was leaning against his chest playing a mindless game on my phone, he suddenly asked, Baby, what would you think if I suddenly became a super rich guy? My little character in the game was about to die. I answered distractedly, Give me some of your money? He leaned in and kissed the corner of my mouth. It's all yours. That day, Justin took me to an evening gala. Apparently, a very important figure was invited. He was a tycoon with trillions in assets spanning the globe, with businesses in technology, finance, communications. The company he founded, Stellar Corp, had become one of the world's top 100 in a short time. But he himself was mysterious and low-key, having never appeared publicly at any event. No one even knew his real name. Everyone just called him Mr. Horace. It was said that because Mr. Horace would be at this gala, countless people were scrambling to get an invitation. But wasn't Horace just Justin? Was he planning his big reveal tonight? To show his true identity, put everyone who looked down on him in their place? I silently guessed, but since Justin didn't say anything, I didn't ask. At the gala, as the unfavored long-lost son of the Clark family and the lazy third son of the Hale family, no one paid us any mind. I saw the Clarks were there, too. Mark was leading Caleb around, chatting with different people. I looked away, feeling a bit bored. Justin had to go discuss something, so he left me in a quiet, secluded corner to wait for him. Not long after, the famous Mr. Horace actually made an appearance. He was dressed in a dark, custom-made suit that fit his perfect, tall frame. A silver mask covered his face, revealing only his sharp jawline. Every movement exuded the confidence of a man in power, with a cold and imposing aura. His appearance caused a stir throughout the venue. I didn't bother to get up, just glanced over curiously. I watched him go on stage, give a brief speech, and then disappear after rejecting everyone's attempts to talk to him. I got up to find the restroom. As I rounded a deserted corner, I saw the man who had been the center of attention just moments before, standing not far away, his eyes fixed on me. All alone? He asked, his tone suggestive. Want to have a little chat? As he spoke, he began walking towards me at a leisurely pace. What are you up to? I rolled my eyes internally. Don't think that just because you're wearing a mask, lowered your voice, and changed your cologne, I can't tell who you are. Please. All those nights of cuddling weren't for nothing. After a moment's thought, I decided to play along. Just as he was about to reach me, I took 2 steps back. I'm married. He paused, then let out a soft chuckle. Does your husband treat you well? He said. How about you dump him and be with me? For a moment, I felt a mix of emotions. Does he have some kind of weird fetish? I gave him a disgusted look and turned to leave. I quickened my pace and pulled out my phone to text Justin. Honey, where are you? I ran into a creep. As I turned another corner, I caught a glimpse of the man looking down at his phone, his body stiffening slightly. I couldn't help but smile. He replied quickly, Baby, wait for me, I'll be right there. Go find a place to rest first. Walk slowly, don't fall. He even noticed I was walking fast. Before I could find Justin, I ran into Caleb. Someone came and told me that Justin had booked a room for me upstairs. I'd seen this person before, he really did work for Justin. So without a second thought, I followed him upstairs. We hadn't gone far when he suddenly had to leave for a moment, so I took the key card and went up by myself. When the elevator doors opened, I came face to face with Caleb. He was wearing a baseball cap and a mask, dressed all in black, completely covered up. But looking into those malicious eyes, I recognized him immediately. What was he doing here, planning a heist? Has the pampered young master of the Clark family fallen so low? Evan. He smiled, his voice deceptively innocent. I heard Mr. Horace hates people who throw themselves at him. If he sees you in his room later, what do you think a ruthless man like him will do to you in revenge? And what about your blind husband? When he mentioned Justin, his tone turned colder. If he finds out you slept your way into another man's bed, do you think he'll still protect you? I think he's lost his mind. Let's stop with the guessing games. You should probably go get your head checked. Caleb giggled. By then, you'll truly be a piece of trash that nobody loves. Seeing how deranged he looked, I cautiously took a few steps back. Just then, Caleb pulled his hand out of his pocket. He sprayed me with some unknown substance. When I woke up again, I was lying on a cold floor. I got up and looked around. It was a spacious and luxurious room. I went to the door, and just as I expected, it was locked from the outside. I sighed, walked over to the bed, and sat down. The suit Justin was wearing when he arrived was neatly folded on the bedside table. From what that genius Caleb said and all the signs here, this had to be Mr. Horace's room. Not long after, the door opened. I found myself face to face with a tall, imposing man. He was clearly surprised to see me. He quickly composed himself and said in a low voice, Are you offering yourself to me? If I had the energy, I would have pointed at the suit on his bedside table and demanded, Where did you take my husband, you scoundrel? And played out a dramatic soap opera scene with him. But thanks to whatever Caleb sprayed me with, my whole body was burning up, craving something. So I threw the suit on the floor, and when I spoke, my voice was a trembling, pitiful sound. Justin, stop pretending. After a second of stunned silence, Justin finally took off that stupid mask. His voice returned to normal as he immediately apologized. Honey, I'm sorry. His eyes fell on my bare feet, and he quickly walked over, kneeling down with practiced ease. He took my cold ankle in his hand. Baby, please don't get cold. Why did you take your socks off? It was too hot earlier, so I took them off. I went limp and leaned back, letting out a ragged breath. Then I lifted my foot and rested it on his shoulder, rubbing it against him almost imperceptibly. I whispered, Seducing you. He froze completely. When he looked up again, his eyes were filled with a bottomless pit of desire. His hot body covered mine. My vision was blurry with tears, and I couldn't see his face clearly. I just moved on instinct, leaning in to kiss him. Compared to before, we were both a lot more unrestrained tonight. It was exhausting, but incredibly satisfying. I don't know if Mr. Horace is ruthless, but his hands were definitely rough. The next day, I slept until noon. When I woke up, the doctor was already waiting by my bedside. As I opened my eyes, I overheard Justin getting a scolding. You know what his physical condition is, and his skin bruises so easily. Look at all those red marks. Can you not be such an animal all the time? You're always bursting with energy. All you know how to do is torment your husband. Justin just stood there, his face grim, his mouth turned down in a pout, not saying a word back. He looked like a sad, giant wolf. It was both funny and endearing. My voice was hoarse as I called out to him, "Honey." He immediately rushed over to my side. "I'm fine," I said, looking up at the doctor. "Thank you, doctor. It's not his fault." The doctor looked like he couldn't bear to watch and turned to leave. Justin immediately lifted the covers and climbed in to hold me. "Baby, are you uncomfortable? Does anything hurt?" My whole body was sore and weak. But I couldn't blame him this time since I was the one who started it. I touched his back. "Does your back hurt? I'd done quite a bit of scratching last night." He chuckled. "With those little kitten claws of yours." That same night, a story broke and shot to the top of the trending charts. Evan crawls into Mr. Horace's bed. Cheating husband? Exclusive look at high society scandal. Someone released a photo of me leaning against a hotel room door, along with a short surveillance clip of Mr. Horace entering the same room. Caleb had gone all out this time, hiring bots and trolls to slander me online and fuel the controversy. But his moment of triumph didn't last long. Justin quickly had the trending topics removed and posted from his company's official account. "We're married. Is it illegal to share a room?" The post was accompanied by a photo of our marriage certificate. Before anyone could process it, he posted another one, a lawyer's letter. The defendant was Caleb. The constant plot twists sent the internet into an uproar. That same day, Justin held a press conference, making his first public appearance in front of the media. The mysterious founder of Stellar Corp was none other than the good-for-nothing third son of the Hale family. The entire room was in shock. With concrete evidence, Caleb was quickly sent to prison. The fact that he was the son they had raised by mistake, and I was the Real Clark heir, was dug up and exposed. All the times he had conspired with other rich kids to frame me were brought to light, one by one. Caleb had also been planning to enter the entertainment industry. Now, mired in scandal, despised by the public, and in jail, there was no chance of a comeback. During this time, the three members of the Clark family took turns calling me endlessly. I only answered the first one. Mrs. Clark was sobbing. "Evan, I'm so sorry you had to go through that. I never thought Caleb could be so thoughtless to do something like that to you. But he's lived with the Clark family for so many years, and he's still young. If he really goes to prison, his future will be ruined." She finally got to her point. "Could you drop the charges and maybe talk to Justin and ask him to let Caleb out for now? Whatever misunderstandings there are, we can talk them out later." I took a deep breath and said sincerely, "Mrs. Clark, you truly are a very kind mother. But he deserves this. And besides, I don't know you very well. Please don't say such rude things to me again." I thought for a moment and added, "Let's not contact each other anymore." After that, I never answered another call from anyone in the Clark family. Not long after, the Clark family's company ran into financial trouble. Their stock plummeted, and they faced an unprecedented crisis. During that time, the Clarks constantly bombarded me with messages and calls. Their tone went from condescending to emotional blackmail, and finally to desperate begging for me to come back. It was laughable to see their different faces. Even when I blocked them, they would just use different numbers to harass me. One day, I got so fed up that I threw my phone into the toilet. I turned to find Justin. "Honey." When he rushed in, I looked at him with teary eyes. "I accidentally drowned our memories. Can you take me to buy a new one?" I was really being spoiled rotten by him. I never received any more harassment from the Clarks after that, and I slowly forgot about them. I heard their company later went bankrupt. Even after revealing his identity, Justin still wasn't very enthusiastic about going to the office. He still worked from home most of the time. While he sat at his desk working, I would lie on the rocking chair with my iPad, playing games. Occasionally, I'd look up and just stare at his handsome, focused face. When I couldn't resist, I'd get up and give him a couple of kisses to distract him. One day, he pulled me into his lap while I was messing with him and kissed me hard for a long time. When he let go, while I was still dizzy and dazed, he said, "Baby, once I finish up my work, let's go on a trip. What do you say? Where would we go? Anywhere you want. Domestically, abroad." He paused and added, "But no high-altitude places. Your body can't handle it." I leaned against his chest like I had no bones, and as he spoke, a sense of anticipation began to grow inside me. I had never really traveled before. I'd been so focused on people who weren't worth it, and my body wouldn't have allowed it anyway. After a long period of careful care, my health was much better than before, and I had found the person who loved me with all his heart, the one I could spend the rest of my life with. I smiled. Okay, day and night will pass, and the seasons will turn. From now on, whenever I see the mountains, the sea, or the moon, I'll see you in them all.